Hey, what's up everybody? Thunderbob here, and tonight we are going to be checking out Diablo 4 Season 2. This is not a seasonal character though, this is my Eternal Realm character. This was my Infinite Chain Lightning Sorcerer, who I played at release up until Season 1, and then when Season 1 came out, I mostly played a Necro that I got up to about 80, and a Druid that I got up to about 50, and then I kind of fell off of the first season after the first month. I just felt like there wasn't enough there to keep my attention. There's been so many crazy games this year. Baldur's Gate 3 I played through, Cyberpunk I played through, I'm playing through Starfield kind of on the side as I'm playing Season 2. But I wanted to jump in and see how my Chain Lightning Sorceress fared with the changes. And there haven't been a lot of class-specific changes, or I should say build-specific changes for this character. But they did rebalance enemies substantially, to the point where this build actually feels a lot more competitive than it did mid-Season 1, right after that Chain Lightning patch that buffed the Chain Lightning ability considerably. Like, I feel way better now than I did then. And you'll see this video, I'm fighting enemies that are about 10 levels above me, like level 100, and I think it's 105, 106 in this video. And I'll link to a previous video where I was 95, and that was during Season 1, fighting comparable leveled enemies. And you'll see how much easier it is now, post-patch. And I'll go just really quickly, I'm going to show you the gear I'm using, and my skills. If you want to go in more depth, some of those previous videos go into more detail on like my thinking about the build, but I'll show you just real quickly here. Let's go to the skill tree to start with. This is a Chain Lightning Sorcerer that is built around using the Chain Lightning enchantment and Frostbolt. This is to get the chill effect as quickly as possible on my enemies and get the additional crowd control damage. I've got like a ton of crowd control on this build, and I tried Frozen Orb for a while, and I switched back to Frostbolt. Going through here, just 1 point in Frostbolt for the enchantment. I've got 3 in Potent Warding since the increased resistance. I'm testing that out. Chain Lightning at level 9 with gear, all the way down to Greater Chain Lightning. I was using this for a long time for the Crackling Energy. I have switched back because I really don't need the Crackling Energy any longer. I have a kind of infinite mana without the Crackling Energy, and the damage from them, unless you're really specking hard for it, just isn't that substantial. 3 Devotion, Elemental Dominance. Moving down here, pretty much all of the defensive abilities and Glass Cannon, and a point over here in Elemental Attunement just to be able to occasionally reset the cooldowns on my defensive abilities. I feel like with how much less squishy I feel, I may be able to drop some of these, but I wanted this to be pretty comparable to that previous video, so I didn't make any substantial changes to the build. Coming down here, align the elements. This is really nice now. It'll give you a pretty frequent 40% damage reduction against elites, and it also persists for 2 seconds. So like if you do get hit, you've got a little bit of time to, you know, to keep that damage reduction going. Mana Shield, one of the best just free damage reductions in the game, because you're just constantly spending 100 mana, so that's pretty much just a constant 21% damage reduction. And then Protection is really nice for the frequent barriers that you get. Nothing in the mastery skills. Coming on down, I do have that Frostbolt as my enchantment, so I'm getting 6 points in Hoarfrost, 3 from my amulet. That's giving me a pretty big increase on chilled, and then also frozen enemies for my Frost Nova. I'm using Unstable Currents as my ultimate, and then I've got 1 point, 3 points, and 3 points here. I really am not seeing enough stun for this to be that beneficial. I will probably back out of this eventually, but I've been testing out stuns with this build, and honestly, it's not that effective. You could probably move those points to some of the other defensive abilities. And I'm using Veer's Mastery, which for a while I was using Overflowing Energy, but since I am not focusing Crackling Energy, I have switched over to Veer's Mastery and the damage it adds and the damage reduction. And looking at gear, I've got the increased armor from the obedience aspect. The Infinite, probably my favorite unique item in the game for that stun on teleport. Got your 35% damage to mobilize stunned or frozen enemies. This doesn't stack any longer. There's no point in doing stunned, frozen, and immobilized. They changed that a couple of patches ago. This used to be like the best item in the game, and now it's just pretty good. Veer's Mastery is improved. Now I'm taking considerably less damage for each up-close enemy. I need a better version of this, obviously. This is the best one I've found so far. It's kind of crap. But it is giving me a pretty good damage reduction. I switched out the double Frost Nova for this. I think that was another change from the previous video. Flame Shield. And then this is the only item that I've really substantially changed from that last video. I found this on one of my first Nightmare Dungeon runs. It's not perfect, but it's pretty damn good. 898 item power. This is what I was using before, so it's a 900 damage increase. And then I've got that double critical strike damage. So it's got 60% critical strike damage, 60% lightning critical strike damage, damage to distant, and damage to stunned. I think I would have preferred the damage to close enemies versus the distant enemies, but I mean, they're pretty comparable. It's just with this build, I'm teleporting on top of guys frequently, and I think the close might have been better, but I don't know. It's pretty close. And then just the 900 damage increase definitely makes it better. And then I've got the Elementalist that gives you increased critical strike chance when you're above 100 mana. And since I'm almost always at above 100 mana, I've got 130 baseline. And I've got this that restores 4 of my resource whenever I crowd control an enemy, which is, everything I do is chilling enemies. Every single time I cast, it chills an enemy. That gives me 4 resources. And then each time my Chain Lightning bounces, it gives me 2.5 mana. So like, basically, my mana, if you watch, just barely ever drops. Unless there's something that's draining it, or something that's, making it where I'm not chilling, or crowd controlling, or casting my main skills. Like, I should have almost max mana, which means I almost always have 100% crit chance. You'll see here, I'm all the way down. Critical strike chance, 41% baseline, and with this amulet, that's pretty much 100%, 98%. So, and here's the rest of stats: 362 critical strike damage. I do realize that they kind of nerfed this; it's additive now, not multiplicative, so it kind of sucks. But if you'll watch the video, I do feel like my damage is considerably higher than it was previously. And the build overall just feels stronger. Yeah, I'll just jump right into the footage, and thanks for watching, everyone. Alright, well, let's get started. I'll go ahead and just pop a potion here, but use a critical strike one for now. And take note, I'm about at a quarter. I just hit the first bubble of 96. And every Nightmare Dungeon I've done so far in this range has given me about a quarter of a level of experience, meaning 1 Paragon point worth of experience, which is pretty crazy. Pre-Season 2, I was getting about 10% of a level on each Nightmare Dungeon. Even the ones when I was doing them were like 10 levels ahead. So at this stage, I'm getting, I'd say about 2.5 times as much as I was pre-patch. I know they said 40%. I don't know exactly how that math works out, but on Nightmare Dungeons pre-patch, when I was running about 10 levels ahead, it would take about 10 to 11 to level me in the 90s. Here I am, 96. I'm a level higher, and I'm getting about a quarter experience per run. I mean, each dungeon's a little different, but I've run about 5 of them, and I'd say a quarter of a level is about where I'm at. And I'd also say it's quite a bit easier. Like, my gear really hasn't changed. I've literally changed 1 item, and that item I actually just changed this last run. Everything else is the same. The build is like 99% the change. I've got like 1 tiny change. Instead of Frozen Orb, I'm using Frostbolt as one of my enchantments. So overall, like, the build hasn't changed. The gear hasn't substantially changed. So if anything, I should be weaker because the critical damage has become, you know, it's gone from multiplicative to additive. If anything, my damage should be substantially lower. And actually, for the most part, I do see the numbers popping up. They do appear lower. Like, I was getting crits into the 200 range with this build after Season 1 released, after, you know, the first major Chain Lightning buffs that happened. You can go back and watch that video to see that. And you notice, I don't think I'm seeing crits that high, like maybe 100,000, 120 or something. It has been has been the highest I'm generally seeing, but things are dying faster than they were for sure. So I think definitely the rebalancing of the enemies has had a pretty big impact. Like, statistically I'm weaker, but damage-wise I'm actually feeling quite a bit stronger. Did I miss one? I think I got them all. Yeah, so it's a win, I'd say. Chain Lightning feels more effective than it did. Like, I remember in that last video I was kind of down on it. Even with the buffs, I was feeling a little too squishy. And I don't know if it is the changes to in the resistances. You know, the sorcerer has innate resistances because they're an intelligence-based class. I don't know if that's helping. I know my resistances are not great on this character. Like, I haven't really focused on them. I know some of them are better than others. And I think I felt that, like, I think my poison is kind of low, and my shadow is kind of low. So if I've done a Nightmare Dungeon that has a lot of that type of damage, it's definitely a little bit riskier. But I feel like the general hits I take, like the armor-based hits, do not hit as hard, or you know, maybe I'm not as squishy, I would say. And I'm not having to play white as defensively. Like, I can just, you know, with the Rayman of the Infant, I can just teleport in, land my hit, you know, keep moving. It's a lot more active, a lot more fun. I am going to be starting a rogue in Season 2 here, so I probably won't play this character a lot, like maybe in my downtime from that. I'll come back to the Eternal Realm. It's just like, it's so hard to play the Eternal Realm when the Season Realm has so many fun new things on it. So I'll probably be spending my time there. It's also been really hard. There's been so many games lately. Like, I was thinking Season 1 was going to hold my attention for the whole 3 months, and really I played for like a month, and then Baldur's Gate came out, and Starfield came out, and the Cyberpunk expansion came out, and you can see I've got some videos of like all of those games on the channel. At this point, I beat Baldur's Gate 3, I beat Phantom Liberty, and I'm like kind of switching between Starfield and this. I'm not feeling Starfield quite as much as those others, but it's been a really, really good goddamn year for video games. Like, I feel like I would be spending a lot more time in Diablo if this was just your average video game year, but it's really been such an amazing year. I'm pulling these things, aren't I? Alright, we're just gonna drop the lowest one, because I know I had some lower ones on me. And, but I do want to spend more time this season. Season 1, I barely touched my Sorcerer, who was my Eternal Realm character. I got a Necro up to like 75, and I got a Druid, I think, up to 50 before I kind of got bored and just kind of moved on. Oh, like I said, that poison, my poison resist kind of sucks. I think that's my first death in a while. I feel embarrassed. I'm not going to cut that out. That's totally like I'm not paying attention because I'm talking and playing at the same time death. Plus, I haven't played this character in like 2 months. Like, I've been playing my Necro and my Druid predominantly. Like I said, Necro got up to about 75. I really like the Necro. If anything, I think the Necro, at least at the end of Season 1, was way better than the Sorcerer. Like, the build I was doing was doing more damage, while at the same time being, you know, more defensive, less squishy. It's kind of crazy. I don't know what they're thinking. Druid, I'm a little more mixed on. In the end, I switched to a really fun tornado build that was working for me, and I came around on it, but initially, the leveling for the Druid, I was kind of disappointed. It was like definitely the slowest leveler I had played for maybe like the first 30, 40 levels.
I'm not ready yet.
And this Chain Lightning is awesome for bosses. Like, look at my energy level. It just like never drops. Alright. So there you've got it. That is tier 51. Those guys were, I think, 9 or 10 levels above me. Pretty easy stuff, if anything, even though critical damage is not multiplicative, vulnerability damage is not multiplicative anymore outside of the base damage. I feel overall stronger. I feel like the character's better, even though nothing else really changed other than the rebalancing of the enemies. I'm getting considerably more experience. I didn't quite hit. Every other run I've done so far has given me a full bubble, but each dungeon's a little different. This actually feels like a little bit shorter of a dungeon, but I got almost 25%. I'd say that's maybe like 22, 23%. Does that sound about right? And, you know, I think 4 to 5 Nightmare dungeons will level you, it seems like, from about 95 to 100 at this stage. So definitely a lot quicker leveling experience, a lot more fun. Lets you create more characters, diversify, check out new builds. The other thing I want to mention is the items that are dropping. At this stage of the game, I'm at level, 96 here. The minimum levels that are dropping, item levels, are like approaching 900. Like I see 900 item power like pretty frequently, like 886, 850. Like pre-season 2, anything over 8, I'd say 810, 815 was pretty rare. Like this is the weapon I was using for a long time, and I would basically look at every weapon, and I needed something over like 820 item power to really be better than what I was using. And I'd say those would drop like once every 10 Nightmare dungeons. And literally, just from this single run, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Like I've probably got 20 items here that are above 870 item power. So item power, especially as you go higher and higher in level, you're going to be seeing so many more high-level items, better items. So it's almost like it's fun to go back to my Eternal character now, do a couple of Nightmare runs, and like within just a few runs, I get an item that was considerably better than what I was using, for months on end. So yeah, I'm pretty impressed with the patch. I'll probably do a more lengthy scripted video down the road with my thoughts on the whole game, this kind of state of the game, what Season 2, what I'm excited about it, what I'm liking, but I want to give it some more time. And yeah, I'll end the video here. I will have a more lengthy playthrough of that rogue as well, maybe the first couple of levels of my season experience. And if you like what I'm doing, please do like, subscribe, drop me a comment with your thoughts. I do a lot of Diablo coverage whenever I'm playing it, but I also play a lot of other stuff, retro games, new PC releases. I'm into virtual reality, all that kind of stuff. If that sounds like something up your alley, please do subscribe. Thanks again for watching, everyone, and have a good night.